So the Google search for when is the housing market going to crash went up by 2,450% in the past month. And I just wanted to share with you some information, just factual data on why we're in such a different situation than when we were back in '08 and '09. Okay, first off, before I get too much into the comparisons, I want to go back and evaluate what caused that huge drop in home values back in '08 and '09. And the reasons were basically mainly going to be there were no regulations in the mortgage industry. And believe it or not, it was harder to not qualify for a mortgage than it was to qualify. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. Your dog could literally get $1 million mortgage loan without really batting an eye. So currently right now, after what happened back then, there's been a lot of laws, regulations placed within the mortgage side of things to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Because back then, types of loans that were available, negative amortization, there were 0% down, interest-only loans. All these loan programs in which you're not even paying the principal balance of your mortgage down were very, very high. Those were the types of loans people were buying because they're like, oh wow, the interest-only payments are this much. But then again, you're not paying down the principal at all and you're buying it with 0% down. So the reason that's important is because of those types of mortgages being available, any kind of shift in the housing market would put a lot of families in trouble because the equity in people's homes are super important and vital when it comes to making sure that you have options if you can't make your mortgage payments. As an example, currently the good news is the average equity that people have in their homes right now are around $200,000, meaning that relative to the loan they have left and the current home value, they have $200,000 worth of equity. Now the equity provides that family with options because if they really can't make their mortgage payments anymore, they can sell the home, pay off that debt, take that money, use it to rent a place somewhere, I don't know, but basically it allows them an option to get back on their feet. Now secondly, if we look at the demand, why is the demand so high right now? And I know a lot of people talk about the pandemic and COVID and all that, but supply and demand, it's been an issue in the past few years, all the years leading up to the pandemic. For example, if we evaluate the single-family homes that were being built by the decade, from 2000 to 2009, there were around 12.6 million new homes built, single-family homes in America. So that means that those homes being built are adding to the inventory and supply. Now, from 2010 to 2019, only 6.5 million homes were built. So 50% drop in overall inventory being added, along with the fact that demand's been going up and up and up, all leading up to 2020. Demand is high right now for a lot of reasons, and yes, I think emotionally a lot of people feel an attachment to home and the importance of home. But on top of that too, we have to evaluate the first-time home buyer demand stats specifically. And the reason for that is because, remember, first-time buyers add to demand, they do not add to supply. They don't have a home to sell. So now, average age of first-time buyers in the current market are around 33, and they've been for the past decade or so. So now, if we look back 33 years ago to, basically the time in which all the first-time buyers entering the market right now were born, birth rates were going up. So a lot of people were being born, and a lot of those people who were being born during the time the birth rates were increasing are entering the market right now, adding more and more to the demand. So we're still in the middle of that uptick in birth rates, meaning that there are going to be more people entering the market. And how is this different from '08 and '09 is that back then, basically looking back 30 years prior to that point in time, birth rates were declining like crazy because abortion was just legalized in the economy and basically birth rates were down. First-time buyers entering that market was not that high, but strangely enough, supply being high, not a lot of first-time buyer demand, home values were appreciating like crazy back in '08 and '09. Didn't make logical sense. And a lot of that, like I mentioned, was due to those weird and crazy mortgages out there and people treating real estate like stocks. Currently, right now, makes a lot of sense why home values have been increasing so much. We've been in a low inventory and supply market for quite some time before the pandemic. And on top of that, we're experiencing this big influx of first-time buyers entering the market, And it makes sense data-wise that birth rates were climbing during that time. So all in all, the good news is, compared to before, I know that human nature will naturally kind of refer back to the last recession, what happened in the housing market, but we're in such a different kind of time now. And if we look back even at 5 of the economic recessions our economy's gone through, 2 times the home values actually came down. One time, of course, what we're referencing, 2008 housing market crash, and one time before that in the 90s, the home values went down by 1.8, 1.9%, which is basically a flat line. So a recession does not necessarily mean home values are going to come crashing down. And right now we are definitely in that kind of market where one little thing is going to impact the whole housing market and, basically make it come crumbling down. And so due to the fact that we're in this kind of situation for logical, explanatory reasons, if there is a shift in the housing market values, it's not going to be anything like we saw back in 08 and 09 in double-digit drops in such a short time frame. If anything, it's going to be a slight correction up or down depending on where the rates might go, depending on where the inventory might go with the builders, maybe trying to keep up with the demand one way or another. But bottom line, that's not going to be happening. And what I mean by that is a housing bubble burst.